Hi, welcome to today's lesson. Today's learning target is I can graph a set of data on a coordinate grid. In order to do this, we must follow 4 steps. Step 1, label the x-axis. Step 2, label the y-axis. Step 3, plot the ordered pairs. And step 4, connect the points in order. Let's take a look at how we do this. Here we have a set of data in this box right here, and it is divided into 2 sections. There is this blue row here, and this is the data that is going to help us create the x coordinate in our ordered pairs. We have the data here in this pink row, and this data is going to help us to create the y coordinate in each ordered pair. We have here a coordinate grid, and our job is to take this data and graph it or plot it here on this coordinate grid. All right, so step 1, we need to label the x-axis. Well, in order to do that, we first have to look at the data we're given for the x coordinate, and we see here that the data is years and the numbers themselves are just single digits, 1 through 6. So we are going to come down here to the x-axis, and we're going to label it single digits. Simple enough. So we're going to remember to label the lines, not the spaces between the lines, but the lines themselves. Let's do that. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And because this lesson is so new, we're actually going to tackle a number of different graphs. So you can see this step play out over and over again. Each of the steps play out over and over again. So let's go ahead and, for now, jump to the next set of data and also label the x-axis. We have here it started. So we'll finish labeling this x-axis, 9 and 10. Let's go ahead and finish labeling the next x-axis, 9 and 10. And let's go ahead and do it one more time. Okay. Each of the x-axes on our 4 coordinate grids is now labeled. Let's take a look at the second step. Next, we have to label the y-axis. That is the data that's here in this pink row. In this case, it's the number of boxes of pens used per year. And the data we see here is also in single digits. Now, it's going to be really important to study the data that you have in the y-axis, because the way you label this y-axis is going to be different for each graph you make, for each coordinate grid you work on. In this case, we're going to start with the easiest possible choice. Because the data set is made up of single digit numbers, we can label the y-axis using these single digit numbers. And that makes sense. So let's start with this here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right. Now, let's go to our other coordinate grids and continue to label the y-axes. And we're going to see that this is where some of the challenge comes in today's lesson. This set of data here on this y row doesn't use single digits. Check it out. This data is ink cartridges used per year. And the numbers range anywhere from 2 cartridges used per year up to 18 cartridges used per year. So how are we going to fit 18 cartridges, like a number like that, on a y-axis that seemingly only has 10 lines to label? Well, we can't use single digits, can we? I just noticed something. My y here is deleted. I'm going to put that y back. Okay, so we have to think about how we're going to label this y-axis so that all the data can fit, even numbers like 16 and 18. And what we notice when we really study closely this set of data is that all of these numbers are even, and they start with 2. And if I counted by 2s, I would hit each of these numbers: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. So if I label these lines on the y-axis by 2s, I will be able to fit all this data on this coordinate grid. So let's do that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. Let's do that one more time. Take a look at this data set. This data set here is the number water used in gallons per week, and the actual data itself is made up of much bigger numbers. So now we got to find a way to put numbers anywhere from 20 to 90 on this y-axis. So let's study it and look for any patterns that we see, any clues, like detectives. Oh, I see something already. Every single one of these pieces of data ends in a 0, which means they're all divisible by 10. They're all multiples of 10. So if I labeled each of these lines 10, 20, 30, 40, I would get up to 100, and that would be plenty for me to graph a number like 90 gallons of water used each week. So let's do that. All right, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. I apologize for the messy handwriting. Let's practice this one more time, because again, this is where the challenge is going to come in. Here we have another set of data for the y-axis. This now represents calories burned per day. And this data set represents numbers from 20 all the way up to 200 calories burned per day. So now we have to fit numbers from 20 to 200 on this y-axis. Let's study the data and look for clues. What do you notice about this data? I noticed something. Not only do all these numbers end in 0, but starting with the smallest piece of data, this 20 calories burned in a day, I realized if I counted up by 20s, skip counted by 20s, I could hit every one of these pieces of data. Follow me. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140, 160, 180, 200. That tells me that I need to label each of these lines by 20s in order to fit a number like 200 on this y-axis. Let's do that. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140, 160, 180, and 200. And now I can fit all of the points that will be plotted by these ordered pairs, including the one that includes the number 200 on this y-axis. So that's the trick here today. It's going to be to study your data and figure out how to label your y-axis. Because if you've noticed, and I hadn't pointed this out, but if you've noticed, all the x-axis numbers today, all the data is going to be single digits. So every single time you can just label the x-axis with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. It's the y-axis that's going to be a little bit tricky, and it's going to require you to study it to find the pattern in the numbers so that you can label it correctly. All right, let's get back to our original coordinate grid. One too far. Here we go. Let's go with step number 3 now. Okay, once we have our coordinate grid labeled, we're going to plot the pairs. And just so we're clear, the pairs are here, just like they were yesterday. One x coordinate and one y coordinate. And so I'm going to go ahead and just start doing that. Oop. There they are, right there. All right, so let's do it. We have to plot the pairs in order. We got to connect them in order as well. So let's start with this first ordered pair here, 1, 4. I'm going to go over to 1 and up to 4, and it's going to belong right there. I'm going to plot it in green to match the color of the step. This is step number 3. I'm going to label it 1, 4. And then I'm going to do my next ordered pair. That's 2, 3. So I'll go over to 2, up to 3, and I'm going to label it. Let's see, there it is. I'm going to label it parentheses 2, 3. Third ordered pair, 3, 7. Over to 3, up to 7. There it is. That's going to be 3, 7. Next ordered pair is 4, 1. Over to 4, up to 1. There's that point right there. We're going to label it 4, 1. It'll be important to label your points today as well, just like I'm doing. Okay, our second to last ordered pair is 5, 6. So we'll go over to 5 and up to 6. There we go. And we're going to label it 5, 6. And our last ordered pair in this set of data is 6, 9. So we'll go over to 6 and up to 9 right there. And we'll put a point and we'll label it 6, 9. Our final step is going to be to connect the points in order. That's the order that we plotted them in. So let's do that. Starting with the first point, to the second, to the third, to the fourth, and to the fifth. And there we have our points, our data set graphed on a coordinate grid. And we can see that the number of boxes of pens used per year started sort of in the middle with 4, went down in the second year, up in the third year, plummeted in the fourth year, and then rose for 2 years in a row, quite sharply. All right, now you're going to go ahead and do this kind of work today. But before you do, let's plot a couple more points just to make sure we have it, okay? Here I am on another coordinate grid with another set of data. We have it labeled, so we're going to now graph the number of calories burned per day. All right, our first ordered pair is 1, 100. So I'm going to go over to 1 and up to 100, and there it is. I'm going to label it 1, 100. Our next ordered pair is 2, 60. So I'm going to go over to 2 and up to 60, find my point, and label it 2, 60. I'm then going to go to my third ordered pair, 3, 20. So I'll go over to 3 and up to 20. Plot that point. That's 3, 20. Now let's do one more. Our final ordered pair for today is 4, 200. So let's go over to 4, up to 200, and put our point there. We'll label it 4, 200. And our final step would be, if we pretend like we are done plotting this set of data, which we're not, would be to connect the points in order. So let's do that. We'd connect point 1 to point 2 to point 3, and then to point 4. And if we looked at this data and used this graph to help us understand it, we could see that the calories burned per day dropped drastically in the first 2 days, but then jumped way up in the third and the fourth day, which would tell us that it's possible this person really started to exercise on day 4. And that's maybe how they burned so many more calories. Okay, today, our learning target is I can graph a set of data on a coordinate grid. And when it comes to graphing or naming labeling the y-axis, you want to be really careful to study that set of data carefully in order to label it correctly. If you need help, let me know.